What up, good people? What up, what up, what up? I am sitting here with my two lovely sisters. One is my wife.
Like, I'm not your sister.
I know. You are my sister, too. It's wife / sister. You my lover. You my friend. No, sister don't work.
No.
All right, yo.
No sister wives.
This ain't no sister wives. Okay, we don't want to get that impression. You are crazy. Do we have to do this first thing? Wow. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses, guys. Glenn P. Brooks Jr. here, sitting alongside the lovely light skin, getting on my nerves already.
Cherie Brooks Jr., author, speaker, relationship, and life balance coach. And it's great to be with you guys this morning. We have a special guest. Special guest. Listen, guys, y'all have to understand, first of all, this is my I always call you my big baby sister.
Right.
Because I've got a little baby sister. We've got a bunch of sisters.
Yes.
So, but you're the oldest.
Yes.
But you're younger than me.
Right.
And so here's what I'm excited about. Cherie, we getting a chance to have a conversation with people about a particular subject that I think, Candice, you crush it. So for those of you all who don't know, this is my sister, Candice Smith, and this is her first appearance on Facebook Live. So I'm super excited, but we're sitting here, Can, in your space, man. This is where you do what it is that you do. And so that you guys know, Candice is a wife. She's a mom. She's a grandmother. And more importantly for this conversation, Candice, you're a healthcare, child care provider and have been for years. So today we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries. We're going to talk about how to establish them, why it's important. And I want everybody to understand, listen, do me a favor really quickly, guys. Let's go ahead and share this out. So for those of you all who don't know, well, first of all, Can, just say a few quick things about yourself and introduce yourself to the folks, and then we'll go from there.
Like Glenn's combined groups.
Okay.
The younger ones.
Right.
6 weeks up until 5-year-olds. Now I just primarily do 2-year-old through 5-year-olds.
Got it. So look, mom just jumped on. She said, "Look at my children."
That's Mama Pat.
Glad you can give back. No, I love it. So listen, guys, we're going to go in a second. But before we do, I just want to, for those of you all who don't know, Cherie and I created a relationship academy. It's an online academy for people who are trying to grow their marriage, their parenting skill sets on purpose. And I think that unfortunately, Can, a lot of people find that, you've been married twice. You have a blended family. You have grown children, your grandchildren. And I know Cherie and I, we've gone through the whole gambit, and not a lot of people do that successfully.
True.
And so MAPS, Marriages and Parenting Successfully, we created that, guys, specifically to help you guys grow the skill sets that it takes to pull that off. Cherie and I, for those that don't know, we've written 7 books between the two of us. And our goal really is to just help people navigate relationships in a way that don't cause them a whole bunch of stress. Yes?
Right. We realized a long time ago that you can't do relationships by yourself. And what I mean by that is that being a parent or being a wife are the two roles that you'll take on in life that there's no training.
Right.
You got to get a driver's license to drive a car.
Right.
But you can be responsible for another life. Being a parent,
right,
without a license, with no certification,
don't crash the life. Don't crash the life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. With no formal training, and also being married, you join together with another person, and there's no formal, there's no guidebook per se on how to do it successfully.
Right.
And so we realized that we needed community examples of other people that had done it right, that were doing it right, that were trying to do it right, to walk alongside them in order for us to be successful in our relationships. And so we created the Relationship Academy, as Glenn said, to be able to provide that environment for other people that don't have that community, so that they can be in an environment to get the wisdom and guidance and just go through this journey with other people.
And Cherie, I will say this, and we're going to move on, guys. Let me help you guys understand. There's no such thing as sustainable growth, right, without community. I don't care what the thing it is that you're trying to accomplish. If it's to lose weight, if it's to become independently wealthy, maybe you're got huge financial goals. If it is to buy a home, the more you are in community with people who are doing the thing that you want to do, the longer you can sustain growth in that area. You can get a spurt. You can certainly, you don't have to have community to obtain these things. No. We're not talking about that. But in order to maintain them and then grow them, you got to have people around you that can help you do that. So if you guys want to be a part of MAPS, do us a favor, hop over to thecrcoach.com. That's www.thecrcoach.com. And we're going to go ahead and do that. God bless you, baby. There's some tissues over there if you want to go get them. It's just my allergies. These allergies, boy. Is the pollen crazy in y'all's area as well? Chime in. I know Nadine just jumped in. She said, good morning, Glenn. Nadine, do y'all have pollen problems? Good morning,
Glenn and Cherie.
Oh, my bad.
Good morning to me, too. Hi, Nadine.
Dang, y'all see how she just roughed me off? She said good morning to me, too. I'm sorry, babe. I'm sorry. Like, I'm feeling assaulted here. So here's the funny thing. The funny thing is I was wondering if they had pollen issues in Toronto. Because that's where Nadine, you almost got. She lives in Canada. I know. Do y'all have pollen issues? Pop. Pollen issues, y'all. You can tell right now. We have turned up a lot of snow, right? I'm trying to tell you.
We're not come visit in the
summertime. Right, it might calm that pollen down. So listen, guys, I'm talking to my sister. I love this woman to life. We've been rocking for a long time. I mean, we it's just been us, Can, and I really want to encourage people to share this out really quickly, because we're going to run down a couple of quick things, guys, and then we're going on a walk. We're going to do a family walk. I love it. I love your neighborhood. Nature walk. A nature walk. They got a bunch of nature trails in my sister's neighborhood. So we're going to get out and we're going to experience a little bit of life. But one of the things I want to do, Ken, is talk a little bit about, you're an entrepreneur and you've been in this space of caring for other people's children for more than a decade now. And it's tough sometimes to establish boundaries with children outside of your own. So we want to talk a little bit about that. Renee, thank you again for jumping in. Renee said, there are pollen issues definitely in Atlanta. And then Nadine did chime in and said the pollen levels are starting to kick up. So Toronto, Canada does have pollen issues as well. So we're going to jump right back into this, Can. I want to talk a little bit about boundaries. So I think they're critical in order for children to grow, in order for them to get everything it is that they need. If we could really quickly, I just want to share a few strategies. And today, guys, for those of you all who don't know, we're talking about how to establish boundaries with children. It's a process. And I want to talk today about 3 tips for drawing the line. So real quick, for people who don't understand, when we talk about boundaries, boundary by its simplest definition is it's a property line by definition. It generally is something that's set up that allows you to know what belongs to you and what belongs to your neighbor. In relationships, those boundaries are not hard drawn. You can't see them. And so oftentimes people kind of don't know what to take responsibility for. And so last week we talked about, the truth is that children, whether they're yours or they're children of other parents, where you have to interact with them, they have to learn how to take ownership of their own feelings. They have to learn how to take ownership of their own attitude. They have to learn to take ownership of their own behaviors. That belongs to them. I cannot manage your behavior for you. That is your job. It's called self-discipline, that kind of thing. So Candice, when we start talking about tips for drawing the line, particularly for children who are not your own, for my healthcare providers, I mean, I always want to say healthcare, for my childcare providers,
it's healthcare providers.
And I'm trying to tell you some mental health, right? Your own sanity. For my teachers, my kindergarten, I think about my new teachers, some of my veteran teachers, people who, maybe you're a daycare provider as well. Maybe you're the nursery worker in church. You get what I'm saying? And you're just trying to figure out, how do I establish and draw these lines, particularly with children that are not my own? Give us some tips, Ken, and talk about some things for me.
Thank you. First and foremost, children, I want everybody to understand, it's not hard when you get it. Children adapt to their environment. And the reason they do is because they're not at their house. At home, they're completely different. Y'all know. They cut up. 2 different people,
Absolutely.
In front of parents.
Parents be out talking about, they don't do that at home.
Yes, they do. Right. Yes. And having said that, when they come here, you have to establish rules.
Right.
And the reason is, just like Glenn said, they need to know their boundaries. what's allowed, what's not going to be allowed, what's tolerated, how do we do it, what does it look like.
Right.
So it's real simple. And I like to call them life skills. That's what I call them. Okay. It's just a lot of it's common sense. We say please and thank you. We use our manners.
Right.
So when you're done, you're done eating or you're done with a certain thing, you ask to be excused. And parents are blown away because we don't do that anymore.
Right.
We just get up and
just leave the table.
We don't even ask you anything.
Right.
So teaching those basic life skills are phenomenal. Things like, what do we do with our hands? I teach them, we keep our hands to ourselves.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So they can, if they have an issue, we keep our hands. That's a big one.
Don't be putting your hands on nobody else but you.
Exactly. And we're not doing a whole lot of that either.
Right. I love it. Right.
Okay. Right. Anyway, I also teach them how to be caring. I have books.
Right.
How we're caring, how we make new friends, how we're being nice to each other. And that's a part of our everyday dialogue. So when they come in, the first rule is they go wash their hands.
Got it.
Because, little things, it's really simple.
Yeah. So one of the things I hear Candice talking about, and we put it in the chat, is relationship. And I want you to speak to that component a little bit.
Yes.
But environment is critical.
It's critical.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, how do you, when you get a new child that comes into the center, how do you get them to adapt to that environment?
First of all, you don't bombard them.
Okay.
You just follow their lead.
Right.
Okay.
So, because some of these kids are they are coming from all kinds of different structures, rules, all of that. So you don't even know that. So basically, we're just assessing them.
Okay.
I'm letting them do their thing.
Right.
I'm not putting any of my morals or anything on them because that's a lot of times will intimidate a child, depending on their social skills. Some of them are introverted, some of them are extrovert. You'll know how to, how to dictate that. But so when they come in, I just let them do their thing.
Got it.
So how do you develop a relationship with a child that you don't?
You learn their strong points. Okay. Like if a new one comes in and she's shy, so you back off from her. You don't bump. I'm the kind, Miss Ken is a silly goose, guys. We love that word. And they go, Miss Ken, you're a silly goose. Yes, I am.
Right.
That's me. We love being silly, and I call them a silly goose.
Right.
So I'm all over the place in my personality.
Right.
But if I get a little one who doesn't care for all that attention, I'm going to give him or her their space.
Right.
So I don't bombard them because they're intimidated by that.
I love it. Guys, I just want to, and y'all do me a favor, squeeze it a little bit. Our window is a little bit tight. We're gonna have to love on each other. But what I want to do, guys, is I want y'all to understand, please share this out, particularly for my teachers, my child care providers. If you're in an environment where you have to care for other people's children, we're going to give you some tips and some strategies on how to establish boundaries. For those of you all who are just joining us, we're talking to wife, mother, grandmother. She's an entrepreneur, and she's my big baby sister, Candice Smith. And so I'm excited about it. So welcome to Breakfast with the Brooks. And Cherie, you had something you wanted to add?
And I also want to say, share this out to parents.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of times as parents, if you don't know what to look for in a provider for care for your child, you will put your child in an environment that's not best suited for them.
That's good.
Hearing Candice share how she structures her environment for her kids. And I'll say this. I remember the first time we came to visit you when you were doing had your child care in Gaithersburg. I was amazed.
Yeah, it was the first time in all the years.
Her interaction with the kids. And I have children. I had children in childcare when they were younger. But the level of, it wasn't regimented. It wasn't like this military type structure. But these kids were obedient. They were and they were out of the park this night. They were out of the park playing. But they were so well disciplined, and it wasn't like they weren't free to have fun.
Right.
But they knew when it's time, okay, guys, it's time to come out and have a snack. They came to have a snack. You ain't had no temper tantrum. No. These were little kids. They were
they were 2 and 3.
Absolutely.
And it just amazed me, the command that she had over these children without yelling, without screaming down on them. It's like there was this mutual respect that you had established with the kids. And a lot of times when kids go to child care, especially when they're very young, especially today, our children will buck against authority. They have this thing because it's this me generation, because these kids are so accustomed to, it's like they want to answer for everything. You tell them no, they like, well, why can't I? Well, why can't I? It's this whole, and it's like, dude, I said so.
Right.
And so how do you deal with that?
Thank you for addressing that, because
so before we go there real quick, I just want to hold that thought. I just want to let everybody know we're talking about tips for drawing the line, right? The number one tip for drawing the line or establishing a boundary, what belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you, and how do you manage those particular things, particularly with children, is number one. We talked about relationship and establishing a relationship and the environment. And then Cherie just asked you the question, like, how do you deal with that kid that doesn't want to accept the structure, which brings us to number two. And that tip is that you got to have structure.
Absolutely. So they know my boundaries and my rules. And when they ask them, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old asks me, Miss Can't, like I'll tell them, guys, it's time to come in, or guys, it's time to clean up, or guys, let's come over here and let's switch the routine. Some of them would say, why? Why? You know that why.
Right.
And I look at them and smile and I said, guys, we don't say why. We say yes. And they're awesome. They adapt to their environment. Yes, Miss Kate. And they're looking at me like, I don't know why we're saying yes. And Miss Kate says, we say yes.
Everybody else is saying yes.
Yeah, and they go, yes. Yeah, because they're so used to it. They trust me at this point.
Okay.
They know I'm not going to steer them wrong.
Right.
And one time, one of my oldest ones, God bless him, he said, Miss Kate, why we say yes? I said, we say yes, Miss Kate. I never answered his question. It didn't denote an answer.
Right.
I'm the teacher.
Oh, that's good.
I'm the leader. I don't have to answer that.
Jim Kane, you got to stop right there. You got to stop. Y'all didn't hear that. So Lacey just chimed in and she said, can I send my girls to you just for a little while? I needed to hear all of this.
Send them.
Look, Lacey lives in Southern Maryland. She's from Baltimore. Shout out to our MAPS community.
Okay.
And so she really might try and figure out.
Lacey, call me, email me.
We're gonna drop Candice's email in the chat in just a second. If you are in this area, she has a backlog. So
I wish she was in the Hampton Roads
area. Right. So
she
she may not be able to take you right now in this season. Right. But I'm telling you right now, Kate, what we really gonna have to do? We're gonna have to create maybe an online training of some kind.
Oh yeah,
where you actually train other childcare providers to do what you do.
Absolutely.
Because what's happening is that people from around the world are looking at this and saying, oh my God, but that's not in my area.
Right.
But if we could create, let's talk about that, because I think that makes a lot of sense. Guys, listen, we're talking about structure. And so for those of you all who are just jumping in, 3 tips for drawing a line, particularly with children that are not your own. It's kind of easy when they're your own in one sense. If you're intentional, and if you were, because you already have a relationship with children. So we said that number one was the environment itself. The relationship / the environment has everything to do with helping to draw that line. Number 2, we talked about structure. And I think that structure, and I have to add this, Candice, I think structure, you have to understand the word structure denotes that it doesn't move.
Right.
Listen to me very carefully.
Right. A building
is a structure, and it is standing still. It doesn't move. You don't decide to come to your house one day and it's not there.
Right.
If your address says that I live on the corner or on the end, can you imagine coming home and then your house is on the other end?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, right? Well, that's because the structure stands in place.
Right.
And unfortunately, what people don't understand with relationships, if you don't create structure, you don't have something that stands in place. And so when you're talking about rules and different things, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, children respond to things that don't move.
Absolutely.
They respond to consistency. They respond to things sort of standing in place. And I think that when you start talking about the discipline issues, you don't have those.
I don't have them. Their trust. I have their trust. So they know Miss Can is going to stand with that no matter what. So when it's time to leave the park, When it's time to start a new lesson or a new task, they know they have my trust, even though they don't want to. Just like my newbies who are being potty trained. They have an issue when it's time to go to the bathroom. So you have to reassure them that toy is going to be there and Miss Can is going to keep it safe for you. And it's okay to go use the bathroom. And then, okay, Miss Can, and they get up and run to the bathroom. And I said, and I like to see your walking feet. And they walk onto the bathroom and just as happy. Then they'll come out the bathroom a lot of times with their hands unwashed. And I said, I didn't hear the water. Let's wash those hands. Oh, Miss Can, I'm a silly goose. I forgot. Right. Let's wash those hands, silly goose.
Right. So I love it. She said, I want to see those walking feet.
Yes, because I encourage them that's part of the rule.
Not to run.
We don't run it. Where do we run, guys? We run outside.
Right. We don't run inside. No, I love it. I love it. So Shanice, one of our friends, and actually she goes to our church. They run a group. It's a journey group for parents, and they have parents that meet in their home and they talk about not only spiritual issues and things like that, but they deal with, just regular parenting. We had a chance to speak into their folks' lives a little bit. And she said, this is so good. She from Baltimore too, Ken. So she a home girl. She a home girl. But Shanice said, this is good. Guys, let me tell y'all something. If you want to create a world where your kids, your children, even the ones that you're caring for that don't, quote, belong to you, they thrive and they grow, they absolutely need to understand how to create boundaries for themselves. And so today we're talking about 3 tips for drawing the line. Number 1, we're talking about it takes establishing a relationship and then the environment. Number 2, we're talking about structure. And so at this particular point, the structure says it is consistent. We are doing the same thing the same way every day. And as a result of that, what we're doing, guys, is we're establishing routine. Yes. And I'm going to sit here and submit that routine is your friend.
It's key.
Would you say that, Candice?
It's your best friend. For me, I wouldn't even know how to survive if I didn't have a routine. Children need to know what's next. And they will tell you, I have a schedule on the chalkboard, but they'll tell you, it's time to eat. It's lunchtime. It's nap time. And then at the playground time is we wash our hands. They'll tell you their schedule, but they can't read what's on the board.
I'm going to show y'all really quickly. So that's her board. And so you see it stays up there, right? And so I wanted to give you guys, and I know this is a little weird for those of you all who are watching, but I wanted to let y'all know, no, she's serious. This is her center. And obviously we're in her home, but it's structured. It's an environment that they really feel comfortable. They got their little kitchen set. You got the little desk in the back and that kind of thing.
Who cleans it up?
Who cleans it up?
Them.
They do.
The parents come in, they think, oh, this is so nice.
I love it.
And they think I keep it this way.
I love it.
It started out, I set it up this way, but they keep it because we've established boundaries. They know what way the cubicles belong, how to access it. There's a reason why we do what we do. It's not just because we get a thrill out of everything being neat. There's a reason why it functions better that way. You can find what you need.
And I like that you said earlier, it's about life skills. And I think that oftentimes people don't look at when you're raising your children or as a child care provider that you're equipping them with life skills. Everything that you do is a skill that they're going to need to have when they grow older.
They'll learn the rest of their life. I'm going to tell you a quick story. One of my alumni from Gaithersburg.
You got alumni.
Yes. He had seizures and he went into the hospital and thank God he's fine now. He's off his medication. No seizures. So he had to go get his little treatments and he held the door for the nurse and he said he had a little speech impediment. He's ladies first. And so he let her go first. And she turned around and she said, Mom and Dad, awesome. They said, oh no. We don't get the credit for that. Miss Can, his teacher taught him that. She said, wow, because I always taught them wherever we go, gentlemen, get the door, ladies first. Even when I serve their food, ladies first. We need to know chivalry is not dead.
I love it. I love it, guys.
This is a life skill.
Oh my God. This is so rich. We are talking to my sister. This is my big baby sister. I have several sisters. Candice is the oldest of all of them, and but she is younger than me. So I'm excited, guys. She's a wife. She's a mom. She's a grandmother. She's an entrepreneur. She's been in the child care industry now for about 12 years.
Over 12 years
professionally for over 12. So you've worked outside of. This has not just been in your home. So you've actually worked for established places.
Yes.
Did you pick up some of these tools and different things?
Absolutely. Every place I go, we're always learning.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're in a swamp, you learn that don't you get too close to the alligators. Okay?
Right.
You're always learning.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. And everything I've learned, I've implemented into my life in some form.
Right.
Because that's what learning is about.
Right. I love it, guys. I love it, guys. So before we get out of here, we're talking about how to establish boundaries for those of you all who may be just joining in. Share this out. Karen says, good morning. Renee Jackson says, loving this, Miss Candice. This is so needed.
Thank you, Renee.
Renee, shout out to MAPS. Renee is in our MAPS community. She lives in Atlanta. Okay. And we met her when we lived in Atlanta, but she has two boys, and this is some good stuff for her. So we talk about 3 tips for drawing the line with your children, particularly with children that are not yours, meaning they're not biologically yours.
You're caring for them.
And you're having to care for them on some level. Number one, you have to create a relationship, and the environment is absolutely critical. Number 2, guys, we said that the structure has to remain in place. It has to be consistent. It has to be the same.
Right. And I just want to jump in as far as structure. We talked about how structure is, if you think about a building, it doesn't move. The thing is with structure is the overarching the canopy. Yes. But there are moving parts within the structure. Right. And so you can't be so rigid that you don't have parts that move. So like Ken mentioned, sometimes she'll switch up the schedule. Schedule but there's always a schedule. That's the structure that there is a schedule.
Ooh, that's good, Sheree. That's good.
Absolutely. We got to eat dinner every day at 5 o'clock.
Right, exactly.
But we do have to eat dinner.
That's a good point. Right. And I explain that to the parents when we have our interview. I'm not, and that's the blessing from being in a center versus being your own center, your entrepreneur, because they have this umbrella of nonsense. It doesn't make sense. You have to have 5 sheets done in math. You have to have 3 done in English, and it has to be a certain amount of hours, or we don't get our score right.
Right.
That's not good, because you're putting the pressure on those children that shouldn't be there. Just like with our sight words. I have the luxury of teaching those children their sight words, and they're learning it. The difference between learning and memorization is 2 different things. Memory is part of learning. Right. But when you learn it, you'll be able to identify that anywhere. That's how you know you've learned it. If you see it on a tree, if you see it in your home, in my home, on a car, you've learned, and you know it, you've learned that. If memory, if it's not on that same thing written the same way, they'll forget it.
Wow.
So that's the difference. And I love that luxury. In schools and in centers, they stay at one task, and by week 10, they have to be here.
Right.
I can't afford to do that to my children. These are my children.
Gotcha.
I can't afford that luxury. It's not a luxury for me. I have to know that they've learned that. So I'll individually make sure they get it. And at the end of the day, I'll reinforce it. Or
Right. And I just want to encourage parents. These are the things that you need to look for if you have small children in a center that you're looking for, if you're looking to place them in childcare or an after school program. These are the things you want to look for, even in schools. If you have the luxury of choosing, between one school or another, these are things, the questions you want to ask the teacher. What is your structure like? How do you develop a relationship with these children? What are your rules? Do you have firm rules in the classroom? Because unfortunately what happens is that oftentimes, because this is the center that's in your area, you just go with that center. You go and it looks clean, and it needs to be clean. Definitely. But what are they doing? You don't know to ask these questions. You don't know to ask, okay, so what is your daily structure? What does your schedule look like during the day? How do you have these set places that you need to meet? Are you so rigid with that they're not going to get it?
Right. Look, guys, before we go, can't hold that point really quickly. I'm talking to my sister, Candice Smith. She runs her own child care center really out of her home. She has been doing this professionally for over 12 years now. We're talking about how she's taken the experiences that she's learned working for establishment organizations, chains, if you will, who many of I've mentioned the names, you would know them. But she's been able to extrapolate, take that information, apply it to her own center, but now infuse in it things that make sense. And so when we're talking about establishing boundaries with children, there are 3 tips that Candice has laid out for us really quickly. We're getting ready to go to the last one. Number 1 was relationship is critical. You got to work on establishing a relationship with your children and then making sure you fortify your environment. Number 2, structure, critical. Absolutely. We talked about structures, meaning a building that doesn't move, but that has moving parts with inside of the building, but that are consistent. And then the last thing, Ken, and I want you to speak to this, is rules. Yes. Because in my book that I wrote called Managing Students, and you read that book. And one of the things that I dealt with, and I wrote that book specifically for people in your lane, people who have to manage students. And one of the things that I found is that rules without relationships breed rebellion. Right. Josh McDowell said that years ago, but I think it's critical here. And so when we're talking about managing students through relationship, not rules, it doesn't mean that there are no rules. Exactly. It means that that's not the primary way you dictate to them how things need to be done. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, thanks, Glenn. Absolutely. When I read his book, I cried. I told him I had to fight to not to go skip a chapter because I was like, oh my God. Let me see. And I was like, slow it down, Ken, and read, take it, read it through. But it blessed me. It was as if you picked my brain. I said, this is crazy.
Yeah, we didn't talk before I wrote it.
I said, this dude.
I didn't interview you.
Exactly. I was like, really? Oh my God. And that's where the tears came from because it was everything that I went through and did. And absolutely, rules. Children respect you so much when you have rules and you implement those rules and those rules are in place. For instance, when we leave to go to the playground, we go over the rules. We stop. There's rules everywhere. When we leave to go to the playground, there's rules. When we come back before we get to the playground, I ask them, guys, what are our rules? We keep our hands to ourselves. We watch out for the little ones. We don't go off the playground and we leave on our shoes and they're zipping through because they want to go play. I say, thank you. And then they go play. Yeah. So and the beauty of it, the thing I got out of that book the most is the children, they are the community. They tell each other the rules. I never have to say the rules because once they learn the rules,
it's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Yep. They will tell that one. We don't do that. Right, Miss Ken? And they look at me
and be like, right. Look, and Ken, one of the things I'll say about rules, and so for those of you all who may be wondering about this book, it's called Managing Students Through Relationships, Not Rules.
You have to get this book.
If you want to get the book, just go to our website.
It's a must read.
It's thecrcoach.com, thecrcoach.com, and you can get information on where you can order that particular book. But really, Candice, I wanted people to understand how you do what you do. Not necessarily because you can service everybody listening, because you can't physically. You're in a geographic location that prohibits that for many people. If you are in the Maryland area and you do want to connect with Candice and potentially have your child come to her center, we certainly want you to do that. Do me a huge favor. And Cherie, if you can really quickly type in her email address for me really quickly right here while I say this last point. One of the things that I want you guys to do is I want you, what's your email address again?
Mother, singular, daughters, 11, the number 11,
at gmail.com. So Candice, one of the things that I want people to understand is that when they have rules in place, what happens is, go ahead.
Mother.daughters.
Yes.
11. Yeah. And so here's what I want to do, guys, for where in Maryland. So she lives in Glen Burnie, in the Anne Arundel County area of Maryland. And so if maybe you have family, maybe you have friends in the area, if you yourself, I'll put it up. At this particular point, what I want you to do is just shoot Candice an email. That's her email address. on the screen. So shoot her an email address and she'll be able to kind of talk you through. There's an assessment process that she takes people through. She doesn't take everybody. She's very selective about the people that she brings in because it has to fit. Yes. And that's part of the reason why your dynamic works so well. Because you, just like they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. Does that make sense? Because the child and the parents are the most important link to me. You guys I treat you better than my family. Okay? Because I appreciate that you guys trust me with your most prized possession. Right. That's just blind trust. And so that's why it has to be an interview. You have to come for a tour. You know, I've had people call me and be like, no, we're signing up. I said, no, you have to come, because if you don't get that feel and that peace when you're here, it's just like, I don't know. But you have to know that you're leaving your child in a safe place and you're good. And, you know, I follow through with pictures and videos so that you can see what they're doing during the day. And I'll flood you. You'll be like, okay, Miss Kim, enough already. Can we sign up? Right. Enough we pay our money and leave. You get what I'm saying? So Daryl, Shanice's husband, said we need her in Virginia. Daryl also said great stuff, needed lessons. My wife and I went through some hard lessons with childcare in the beginning. Had to learn this one the hard way. And unfortunately, that's the deal. So if you guys want to connect with my sister, she is in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. For those of y'all who are in the Maryland area, it's probably about 20 minutes south of downtown Baltimore, maybe a little closer than that. A little closer, because we're on you're closer to Pasadena.
Exactly. So you're getting ready to start your summer program.
I am.
So talk about your summer program.
So excited. Have a flyer in the back if you want. Yes, I
do. The flyer's on the wall. She'll email you the flyer.
Yes.
Go get the flyer. Where's the flyer?
The flyer. I can get it.
Go ahead. She's going to go get the flyer real quick. So guys, listen. She all excited. So Candice has been doing this for a number of years. And the thing I love about it is not only is it what she's professionally trained to do, it's what she's passionate about.
Yes, and I think that's key.
I think that's absolutely critical. So
talk about the summer program.
Okay, the summer program, so excited. So it's a curriculum-based program, but it's not as tight as during the school year. So saying that, we have math readiness and reading readiness. That's so crucial, because what they've learned all year long, if you don't reintroduce that to them and follow that, they will completely lose it. I've had it happen to me my first year in childcare. I said, guys, what do you mean? I would show them the flashcards and they were like, so I said, okay, we have to fix this. Let's tweak this. So we have a sheet of math that we do, and then we have reading, and then they have incentives when they're done their reading. They get a prize for reading, and they read at home, they read with me, so that they don't lose everything they learn.
So what age do you do your summer program for?
Ages 2 through 10. Okay. 2 through 10. My hours are 8 to 4. I know. They would love it. We do field trips, go to the library. It's free. I love it. Magic shows, you name it. Little dog shows. We go swimming at the pool. It's really nice. They have a big waiting pool.
Do y'all make exceptions for adults to come, like you taking 51-year-olds?
Yes. Yes, we do make it. We do make exceptions. Bring your own lunch. I provide breakfast.
Bring your own lunch.
Just kidding. We'll feed you. We do breakfast, lunch, and snack, and I'm affiliated with our food program, so you don't have to worry about your children not eating. We eat healthy. We have a licensed nutritionist that we have to line our meals up with them. You know, so they're getting the right nutrition. They're getting their fruits and veggies. We love it. I love it. Our kids go home. My grandson, he's here, and my son said, "When did he start eating bananas?" Thank you, Mama. He eats bananas. He loves carrots. Now he wouldn't touch a carrot.
Right.
I said, he said, Mama, what's this? I said, it's a carrot. It's delicious. Watch. And I started eating, and he looked at me. He said, I don't like it. I said, have you ever tasted it? No. He said, you don't know you don't like it. Let's taste it.
Guys, listen, we got to get out of here. I'm telling you right now, we've been running our mouth all morning long, guys. I love it. I love it. Talking to my big baby sister. Her name's Candice Smith. She's a wife. She's a mom. She's a grandmother. Girl, you got 10 grandchildren?
I do.
Dear Jesus, now she's a blended family.
Yes.
So, yeah, right. So we had to count Norman's and his crew.
Right.
Yes, because we don't say step.
We don't do step.
They have my baby.
So,
Is it 10 of them?
It's 10. It's 10. Yeah, please.
It's 10 because they've been busy.
We went through this already.
Last night. Norman, I said 9. Guess who I forgot?
Yeah, you forgot the one that comes to your center. That's a terrible shame. So that's why I said, please, let's not do this again. So if you guys are in the Maryland area and you want to, Shannon says, "Oh, thanks, Ma. Thanks for sharing your wisdom." Shannon is Candice's oldest.
Yes,
and
he lives in the same.
Happens to live in the same neighborhood.
And she has a child care.
She actually has a child care.
She's going to start a summer program. So if you can't get linked up with me, we'll send you right
we'll send your kids
Shannon.
over there. And how much?
And she's awesome.
And here's what I want you to know: the apple don't fall far from the tree.
No, she's awesome. I was her assistant at the Christian Academy.
Yeah,
right.
so
awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome woman.
So anyway, we just want to make sure that you guys get that information. Again, today on Breakfast with the Brookses, we're talking about how to establish boundaries with your children, particularly when they are not your own. If you want to find out more information about my sister, her program that she's running this summer, I know you probably can't see the flyer, but it's a summer program. Maybe you can get your children involved. Email her right now, and she literally will respond to you, and we'll figure it out. I'm serious about getting you in some kind of training environment where you can train some people around the country, and they'll pay you to train them to have this kind of structure, and you ain't gotta leave your home to do it. That's a whole other thing. My entrepreneur mind just went to a whole other level. I'm not playing. So guys, listen. No, we need this. We need this. There's too many people who are entrusting their children to too many people who don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And it's no disrespect. They've not been taught. They're winging this, particularly when it's in their own home. And let's just be real. You can get a license, and this still is not who you are.
Exactly.
Let's just be real. Just because they got a license to do this,
and
know. Let's just be honest. I mean, how many people you see driving on the road? They got license, but they don't know how to drive. It's clear, right?
And all these other professions, nurses,
right? And they're not doing their jobs. I'm not. It's no disrespect to these people, but I'm talking about when this is your passion. This is how this is your DNA. This is how you're around.
Eat, breathe this.
Yeah, I think it makes all the difference. So, guys, we're going to get out of here. Cherie, this has got to be best show this year.
I think so.
Got to be best show ever. And so, guys, I'm just all right. Look, now we get ready. Whole nother estrogen and emotional level. I ain't ready for all that.
Sorry.
We're gonna do a walk, and we're gonna get all this energy out. And, but guys, listen, I appreciate y'all. Join us next week. Every week we're right here every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Breakfast with the Brookses, dropping all kinds of tips, strategies, and how to navigate, particularly marriages and parenting relationships. If you guys want to join our Relationship Academy, we would absolutely love to have you. If you're looking for the book that I wrote, Managing Students Through Relationships, Not Rules, you can find it also there at www.thecrcoach.com. And I appreciate everybody. And at the end of the day, guys, we like to leave off by saying hashtag. We all need some help. Let's say it again because Candice didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
So hashtag. We all need some help. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Bye, guys. Have a great Saturday.